Hi, it's good to be with you again today on isolation, social distancing, and the word alone in the Bible. The word alone appears 3 times in the book of Hosea. Now, what is interesting, of course, at least I found it was interesting, is the fact that Hosea is the last book in the Old Testament where the word alone actually appears. Again, I'm working from the New American Standard translation. And so using that translation, after Hosea, the word alone no longer appears in the Old Testament, so not in any of the other minor prophets. So I thought, that was kind of interesting. Anyways, here is the 3 spots in Hosea. Hosea chapter 4, verse 17 says, Ephraim is allied with idols, leave him alone. And then in chapter 8, verse 9, it says, for they have gone up to Assyria like a wild donkey, all alone. Ephraim has paid fees for lovers. And then in chapter 9, verse 4, they will not pour out drink offerings of wine to the Lord, nor will their sacrifice please him. Their bread will be like mourner's bread. All who eat it will be defiled, because their bread will be for themselves alone. It will not enter the house of the Lord. So those are some pretty strong words that God has for Ephraim. Now, Ephraim, interestingly enough, was one of the sons of Joseph, and he makes up one of the 12 tribes. And so Joseph's 2 sons became 2 of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Ephraim was part of the 10 northern tribes. Because Ephraim was one of the largest tribes, oftentimes what would happen is they would actually make reference to Ephraim, and in doing so, they're actually making reference to all of Israel, not just to the tribe of Ephraim, but actually the reference is to all of Israel. And it's believed that that is what Hosea is doing here when he's talking to the 12 tribes, but he's actually making reference to all of Israel in this way. And so Hosea 4 verse 17, Ephraim is aligned with idols, leave him alone. It's very interesting because God told them that they have played the harlot. In verse 15 and then again in verse 18, he says the same thing. They've played the harlot. And of all of this, because they have run after false gods that are not gods at all. So God is saying, just leave them alone. Just leave them alone because of their sin. And chapter 5 is actually a rebuke to the priest. And he continues on with that. So then you have Hosea chapter 8, verse 9. And again, it's going along the same theme. That's why I'm dealing with all 3 of them again. Like I did with Daniel, I dealt with all of them. I'm dealing with all of them today in Hosea because it's the same basic theme. For they have gone up to Assyria like a wild donkey alone. Ephraim has paid fees for lovers. Now again, interesting statements here. God describes how because of their harlotry, they will be scattered. Their stubbornness will pay off. But the payoff is going to be that they'll be like a wild donkey alone, all alone. The only way for them to actually have companionship of any kind is for them to actually pay for it. And then in chapter 9, verse 4, and they will not pour out drink offering of wine to the Lord, nor will their sacrifice please him. Their bread will be to them like mourners' bread. All who eat it will be defiled, because their bread will be for themselves alone. It will not enter the house of the Lord. And so in chapter 9, he's continuing to build on the fact that he has judged them, and that God, in essence, has rejected them. And he said, I'm rejecting your sacrifice. You will not bring a sacrifice into the temple. You will not bring a sacrifice before God. Their sacrifice will not be pleasing to God. Their bread will not enter the house of God. In fact, anybody who eats it will be defiled by it. And it's all because they were worshiping false gods. So what is the lesson here for us? Well, I put down three things I believe are good lessons for us to consider. First of all, we can't serve two gods. Either we serve the Lord or we serve some other god that is not the Lord. But you can't serve God and serve another something that we might call a god. You can't do that. You are either serving that thing that isn't God, or you are going to serve God. And that's an important lesson that we learn here from Hosea. Secondly, if we call ourselves followers of Christ but follow false gods, we're fooling ourselves. We're kidding ourselves. We have diluted our mind if we say, oh, I'm following after Jesus, but in essence, I'm following after something else. Because to follow after Jesus is to go his way. To follow after something else is to go whatever that direction, that particular thing is going to take us. But they are not the same thing, and they're not going in the same direction. So you can't follow the one and follow the other. You're either following Jesus or you're not. And then the final lesson, I believe, is this: God wants our heart, not our heartless sacrifice. And that's true for us as believers. God wants our heart. And so it's important for us to recognize the significance of that. It's not, obviously what we do is important, but if we do it without having the heart for God first, then what's the point? The end result is going to be God's going to say, I reject that because I want your heart, not your deeds. May the Lord bless you.